No way, Jose.
The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jet is plainly visible.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals that deeply troubled young people send.
Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the Morning Dump. I am today's host, Jose Galison. Pleasure to be with you all. If you guys could, let me know in the chat if I'm sounding good, looking good. Give me a little audio check since it's just me, so it's helpful. It wouldn't be the first time I went on a long rant and realized, oh, no audio. So that's why I always check in with you guys on streams like this when it's just me. I see Bobo in the chat. I see Jeep. Bobo sounding good. Hell yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get into paying some bills while we wait for more of y'all to roll into the chat. I do want to take a second to remind you guys that today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Nadeau Shave Co. If you're tired of that razor burn, the irritation, those ingrown hairs, they come from those multi-blade cartridges. Why do I have such a hard time with that word? This is the way to go. You can go back to traditional shave. You can shave just like your grandpa used to. Whether you're shaving your entire face or edging up the beard, the single blades give you a barber grade shave for a fraction of the price. $75 to shave for an entire year. That gives you the standard issue traditional safety razor and the box of 100 stainless steel razor blades. So that's $75 for a year. Compare that to the multi-blade cartridges, which are what, like $30 per 3 to 5 pack or whatever. You're going to go through multiple of those in a year. It's clearly cheaper. But if you're someone who shaves on the regular, like daily or every other day, you're going to want to consider the Quarter Shave Club. That puts you at about 25 cents per replacement blade. This is also a COVID mandate refusing company. This company is born out refusing the COVID mandate. So to recap, this is a superior product in basically every way. It gives you a smoother shave. It's better for your skin. It's better on your wallet. It's a lot cheaper. And then on top of all of that, I mean, it's from a company that doesn't hate your guts. I mean, considering you watch this show, they very likely have extremely similar values to you. So this is supporting a company with similar values. And on top of all of that, you can use code Jose for 10% off your entire order. And with that, let's get and check and see what you guys are talking about in the chat. You can't hear. Wait, are you guys fucking with me? You're saying you can't hear me now? What the fuck? No way. All right, give me a second. Let me make sure. Okay. Wait, okay, you can hear. Okay, well, did the sound really cut out, or are you just fucking with me? Because that's bizarre if the sound cut out. Sorry. Once again, if you guys were here yesterday, you saw there were some weird technical difficulties. StreamYard's going through some growing pains right now. It was mostly visual stuff, so I don't know. It was just you, Bobo. So I don't know. I guess Lance and Bobo both said it. So or they're just fucking with me. Whatever. Let's move on. I guess everyone's saying they are hearing me now. I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, because if we do have sound that's cutting in and out, that is an issue. So, and StreamYard has been weird. I haven't seen that problem though. So it's mostly been visual stuff. So with that, I'm going to bring up, obviously all of these, I almost always bring up a visual aid. Let me know if you're not seeing it. I'll try to pay attention to the chat, because on my end it looks normal, and on your end it doesn't. So that's hopefully StreamYard can get their shit together. Hey, what's up, King David? I see you in the chat. See AB, see Tom, see Anamofo, Lance Ripa, Bobo, all the usual peeps. Yes, see, Lance was saying it was happening all day with almost every channel yesterday. Yeah, it's a StreamYard thing. It was happening on Targeting too. I didn't know about any audio things, so that's why I was like, what the fuck, when you guys were just talking about audio issues a second ago. So Heaven's saying you can hear and see just fine. But all right, let's just get into some content. Hopefully we don't have too many issues today. I'm bringing up anti-war right now. Let me know if you guys can't see this. You should be able to see it just fine. I figured we'd kind of we'd go through our normal little anti-war roundup for the morning. The first story of the day, there's only like a couple I really wanted to go through today, is Trump threat. This is from Witkoff. The Trump threat came after the Hamas talks. Now, I actually have a video for this. We're not going to read the article, but this is a video that's very clear that like this article was taken from excerpts from this speech. So this is from Fox News. Once again, remind me if you're not seeing it. I just swapped over again, so this you should be seeing an old man, an old New Yorker. But let's watch this together. It's a couple minutes long. It's just Witkoff kind of commenting on kind of the ins and outs of the whole Gaza stuff with Trump, and like, because you guys, if you were here yesterday, you know that we talked about Trump put out that post on Truth Social, essentially threatening all of Palestine with death. Apparently that came out following interactions with Hamas. That was another story we covered yesterday, is that we have entered into talks with Hamas, which are super unique. I don't know if we ever have. I think we haven't ever entered into direct diplomacy with them. So that's a good. It's an advancement in a positive direction, I would assume. There also was an interesting little thing there in that story about the idea that somehow Israel found out about this before, without. I don't know, essentially, they found out about it through unofficial channels. So the idea being, it looks like there's espionage going on. Because I guess when the Biden administration flowed this idea out in the past, Israel very quickly were like, you can't do that. They threw a fit, and that didn't happen. I guess they didn't get the opportunity to throw a fit this time around because they weren't presented with the information, and the only way they knew about it, because they did know about it, was through unofficial channels, so likely some sort of espionage. So it's kind of an interesting situation. Obviously, it seems Israel does not want us interacting with Hamas in direct diplomacy. Yet here we are. But on the flip side, obviously, we had this situation where Trump, apparently that flip out from the other day was literally after interact with Hamas. Now, once again, everybody goes 60 chess or whatever. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's something to he didn't like his interaction. I will add to it, there's going to be something that Witkoff will reference in here. I believe something along the lines of like the hostages or meeting with the hostages. From my understanding, Trump did go on some sort of propaganda tour of some sort to talk to the Israeli hostages that had been released. So that looks like what we're getting now. How that played out, I don't know. I would very, very, very much assume this was as I just said, a propaganda tour, whatever the hell that was, Likely these people dialing their stories up. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of awful things that happened to these people. So, but point being is, if you're playing, the two parties here, the same thing is true for Palestine, for the Palestinian prisoners being held by Israel, if not even more. So it's just I don't know. This apparently the idea being here is that a lot of this seems like the implication is that this was indignation from Trump as a result of seeing how these hostages were being treated, which that's kind of a contentious issue because I've seen both. So, but obviously, as I was kind of implying, propaganda tour here, I would assume that these were hand-picked hostages by Israel, if I had to guess. So, because there's been a lot of stories here and there where you hear about like them saying, how they were treated well and blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know. Obviously, every prisoner's story is probably going to be different, too, because they might be held by different groups. Who knows? You could get the one crazy fucking terrorist, and then somebody else could get the nice terrorist. Who fucking knows? But let's go. That's enough rambling from me. Let's go ahead and play this video from Witkoff.
Well, I would say that the president basically was saying, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it's fairly clear he was saying, I've had enough. Like, there's a lot of mistreatment. There's a lot of conversation among these hostages about the deprivation that they went through, about murders that they saw. And I think that the president listened to it, absorbed it, and said, "This, it's unacceptable. I'm not going to tolerate this type of behavior."
So what does that mean for phase 2 negotiations?
I don't think I don't think, as the president has said before, I don't think you alert everybody how you're going to negotiate. or what your reaction's going to be. But I wouldn't test President Trump.
Steve, what is the bottom line? What happens when, and what's the bottom line for President Trump, and what happens? Does the U.S. authorize someone to take action, or does the U.S. take action?
Well, I think.
I've one point I also forgot to mention. We did mention this yesterday. As you can see here on the bottom, it says American Edon Alexander top priority. That is the one that's kind of the where we're butting in here. Essentially, this is a American citizen. You can put an asterisk next to that American citizen because this is a kid who grew up in Jersey, if I recall correctly, and then moved to Israel to join the IDF, I believe, as a young adult. So the way I look at it, we should have nothing to do with this. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I think it's cool. I mean, it's far be it for me to complain about a government stepping in to help someone that's a hostage in some sort of violent conflict. But the implication that this is our problem is a little wrong. I don't buy it. Like I get it. Oh, he's an American citizen, but it's like, dude, he gave that up a long time ago. And it's kind of funny. This is almost contradictory to that one time I freaked out about Elon Musk, essentially saying that Roger Ver shouldn't be pardoned because he's not an American citizen. Now, it almost feels like contradictory, but that's not. Like that situation, like Roger Ver is literally being prosecuted by the American government. Like we have nothing to do with this. So like, I mean, aside from arming the one Israeli side of the conflict, I mean, I guess we do have it. But so far as this specific guy, like this dude, like that's not us. Like that's you, dude. Like we're not. It's not like we kidnapped him. We didn't like. Cool. He lived in America for a while, but he decided, hey, I don't really like this. Now that in that situation is kind of like, yeah, you kind of revoked your membership. In a situation like Roger Ver, it's like, well, that's a little more complicated when you're the aggressor here. You're the one trying to put this guy in jail. It's like we're asking you not to put him in jail. It would be a different situation with like the Roger Ver thing if he was dealing with legal troubles with another country and he was begging for U.S. help, and they were like, well, you're no longer a U.S. citizen. That would be fair. That would totally make sense. It's like, yeah, you're not paying. They're not stealing anything from you. They owe nothing to you. That's the situation here, in my opinion. Which, so if anything, I think it's like a nice thing to help this guy out. But anyways, once again, rambling. But I just want to let you guys know that's kind of the crux of the thing here. That's where we're kind of finding a way to butt in here, is because we're trying to procure this one American hostage. So that's why we're getting super indignant about the hostages thing again, which once again just comes off as bluster and scare tactics to get Hamas to essentially renege the deal. Like this is moral indignancy that being put out in the front stage in reality is kind of silly, considering there was already a deal in place for like all of these hostages exchanges, and it's our side of the party that's essentially reneging the deal here. Like these calls, give over all the hostages. These are essentially begging for changing of terms is essentially what's going on when these are the parties breaking it. So, all right, let's keep going.
It's unclear exactly what's going to happen. I think there's going to be some action taken. It could be jointly with the Israelis. It's unclear right now, but I think Hamas has an opportunity to act reasonably, to do what's right, and then to walk out. They're not going to be a part of a government there.
I do want to add that we talked about the Arab deal that was thrown up a while ago, and as part of that deal, the leadership was required to leave, and they were fine with it. So at least that's my understanding, is that they had agreed to it. That was a term they were willing to, it seems to be Hamas has come to terms with the idea of them no longer being in power. Now, I find this kind of interesting that this is, it looks like Hamas is actually going along with this demand, because this almost struck me from the jump as a demand Israel was making that they probably weren't expecting to actually be met. That way they can get what they really want, which is to continue the ethnic cleansing campaign. But the reason why I'm kind of like, this is interesting, is because as I've ranted multiple times on the show, the likely would be a situation where somebody like the PLO, like the Palestinian Authority or something, would probably take over. That would make the most sense. Like that was what was under the terms of the Arab deal that was proposed. Well, that was what would have been it would have been the Palestinian Authority. But now what the effect that has is that unifies the West Bank and Gaza as more of a singular entity and puts them in a better spot on the world stage for diplomacy with other nations, because now people no longer feel like they're interacting with a terrorist organization. I mean, the PLO has been accused of like terrorist type activities in the past, and sure, maybe there's truth to it to some degree or another. I don't really care. I mean, that's honestly, it's kind of beside the point. It really is just a matter of that, like, countries are like now willing. All of these governments are terrorist states to me. Like, it very clearly, like, you know, especially Israel's fucking terrorist state. So whether they're terrorists or not, it's kind of beside the point. It's just a matter of whether these people are willing to engage with diplomacy and willing to, which generally I think works out better for the people of those countries. So yeah, I think there are people. If we had a PLO in there, there would probably be a situation where Israel is no longer able to act like, oh, we don't have a partner for peace. It becomes far more transparent than it already is. When you can't go, oh, they're savages. You're like, no, this is a PLO. They're pretty well respected they've worked with Israel on many things back and forth for a long time. If anything, you know, the complaint amongst the Muslims there a lot of times is that the PLO is almost like a vassal entity to Israel. But they definitely buck them off sometimes here and there. So anyways, I'm rambling, but I just wanted to let you guys know that little detail. So, and also one more thing he did mention about Israel helping later. It gets cut off in this video, but I think it's later in another question. They ask him about, like, you know, Israel, U.S. joint, blah, blah, blah. And then he said something along the lines of any actions principally would be Israel. So the idea being is like, well, he did say, oh, we could have some joint this or that. Really, what he did say is like what it really comes down to, all the different actions we're theoretically throwing out there. All of them at the very least are Israel leading the way and us simply taking on a support role of some sort. And by that, like, non-militarily, you know, essentially economically, mostly, like, hey, we're providing you the means, which, so really no different than, you know, what it's been every step of the way throughout this. But he just wanted to clarify that, because, I mean, it's like, what are you really saying, boots on the ground? No, that's not what they're saying. But obviously we're in a weird territory where it's like, this is a gray area and you could change things. I don't think we're going to get boots on the ground. That would be bizarre, but yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Everybody understands that, and that is implicit in the May 27th protocol agreement pursuant to which these negotiations are happening. So I think they have to understand that, and if they understand that, then they get a path to leave.
Including military action?
I don't.
A lot of hostages' families in Israel are concerned that if the focus changes to only American hostages, I believe Israeli hostages, non-Americans behind. What can you say to that? And also, regarding the negotiations, would going back to...
All right, well, that's everything that was really important in there. All right, let's check back in with you guys. See Tom saying kvetching a New York accent. These people are truly unbearable to listen to. I don't know. I mean, I'm from the North. I don't mind Steve Witkoff as much. His delivery doesn't bother me too much. CJ is asking where Austin is. He was supposed to, but then I don't know. I don't know what is the specific. He said he couldn't make it today, so I think he'll be here tomorrow. So I'm not sure if I will be, though. So it might be him solo tomorrow. Erskine in here. So what's up? Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's get back into the anti-war tab over here. Now, the two more. Two more stories. One more on the Gaza side of things. This one it sounds scary when you read the thing, but it's actually a little bit of a white pill when we dig into it a little bit. And it kind of answers some of the questions I think some of you asked before, like what's the feeling on the ground, and this kind of goes into this a little bit. But anyways, the headline here: new Israeli army chief to present plan to restart Gaza bombing and retake territory. Says the new head of the Israeli military is set to present his plan for the renewal of Israel's campaign in Gaza and operations to retake territory that the IDF left during the first phase of the ceasefire deal, Haaretz reported on Thursday. Eyal Zamir was sworn in as the IDF's new chief of staff on Wednesday and vowed that Israel's mission against Hamas has not yet been completed. And other Israeli officials have been threatening to restart the genocidal war at a level not seen before. So, it's going to be so much worse. One little thing I did want to touch on before we move on. I believe the previous chief of staff, if I recall correctly, don't quote me on this, I believe he resigned in kind of disgust or kind of in like a what the fuck. in essentially response to October 7th type thing, like out of frustration. I might be wrong. So, I mean, anyway, if any of you guys know better than me, correct me in the chat. But I swear that was the case. And I also, additionally, I think he may have, the previous one may have been the one who admitted to the Hannibal stuff. I'm way more shaky on that little detail. But either way, find that interesting. Now we have a new guy in there, and it was like, oh, we're going to be so much worse than before. All right. However, Israeli sources told Haaretz that they doubt the IDF plan will be able to draft the number of required reservists to enact Zamir's plan, which requires several troop divisions to be deployed across Gaza. The report said many officers in the reserves have made it clear that they would not volunteer to return to combat in Gaza since they think it would only be done for political considerations. Because as we've kind of alluded to on the show multiple times, there is corruption stuff going on with Netanyahu. I don't know the specifics of it, but essentially throughout this whole ordeal, I mean, it's been the situation where, Netanyahu was on the brink of losing political power, and now here's this thing that we can use to hold on to political power, completely wrap ourselves up in this war, no longer have to face any sort of consequences for previous corruption. Oh no, we're dealing with a war. We need to look forward, not backwards, this sort of stuff. So it looks like, though, they're not having it anymore because it seems to be, I mean, obviously just based on this reporting, that there's lots of military members saying, no, I will not rejoin the fight under this current situation. Since I guess it's becoming transparent to them that a lot of this is to cover up corruption, and they're not having anymore, and they don't have the people for it. Other sources told Haaretz that the Israeli military could restart combat in Gaza again, but the idea that it would be more intense than before is overblown as the IDF wants to keep its forces ready for the possibility of war with Iran. The Israeli military has been stretched thin as the IDF has invaded southern Syria, continues to occupy southern Lebanon, and has significantly escalated attacks in the West Bank, which is true. This is something like, this is something we don't think about, that like they are fucking everywhere right now. They are doing so much shit. So it's like, are they really also able to take on the extra that would require to kick things back up in Gaza? I'm not sure. The current ceasefire agreement is hanging by a thread, and as Israel has imposed a total blockade on all goods entering Gaza, a major violation of the deal, the Israeli military has also killed over 100 Palestinians since the truce went into effect on January 19th. On Thursday, Israel carried out a drone strike in Gaza, killing at least 3 Palestinians. Okay, well, that's beside the point. That no longer has anything to do with the story. But I thought that was particularly interesting. Obviously the idea that they're proposing the ideas of starting things back up, but it doesn't look like the reality of the ground is going to support this. So who knows? Maybe we will see hostilities pick up, but it won't. Maybe it won't be as bad as last time. Maybe it'll just be some sort of initial real push to make it seem like they're serious and then back off. I don't know. I'm being hopeful here. We'll see how this plays out. All right, let's check in with you guys. Morning, everyone. What's up, B. Garrett? Dr. Eek says Witkoff was also involved in 9/11. Yeah, he has some weird stuff going on with him. I forget. I want to say he was the guy who was also golfing with Trump the day with the Routh thing. I might be wrong. I don't know. Hamas needs to be reasonable as Israel rips Palestine off the earth, says aggressively agreeing. Yes. Wonder what's really going on with the Middle East. The lore of that area is so deep. It's, I don't know, probably Gilgamesh or some shit, a Nephilim, who knows, whatever. All right, let's keep going. All right. Now this is weird. This is one that I find very particularly concerning. It says State Department to use AI to revoke visas of students who appear pro-Hamas. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is launching an AI-driven effort to revoke the visas of foreigners in the U.S. who appear pro-Hamas in a crackdown targeting pro-Palestine protests on college campuses, Axios reported on Thursday. Which this feels... Oh, hey, what's up, me and Eugene? Good morning. This feels like this could have this feels like it's very not First Amendment, what a friendly. I don't know how this will work out, but yeah, this is weird. So essentially they're using AI to go through social media profiles of individuals who are, essentially immigrants and are using this to essentially revoke visas, which is kind of wild. I guess the idea being is to pull back on these protests since they're being characterized as anti-Semitic. So the report said the effort will involve AI-assisted reviews of social media accounts of tens of thousands of foreign students in the U.S. on visas that will look for evidence of alleged terrorist sympathies expressed after Hamas's October 7th, 2023 attack on Israel. When I was listening to Dave DeCamp this morning, he brought up a good point. That's like, we don't need these. It's like we already have laws, and if someone that has a visa breaks a law, they can be deported. You don't need to make up this other shit, and now it's this vague accusation of alleged terrorist sympathies, bearing in mind that this is going to be interpreted through a Zionist frame, obviously. So it very likely will be people who, even people who are just anti-Israel or even forcefully so. It's going to be, that's likely what we're probably looking at here. The language in the report suggests that any foreign students who attend pro-Palestine demonstrations or express sympathy for Palestinians online could be swept up in the crackdown, since opponents of the Israeli siege on Gaza or U.S. military support for Israel are often labeled pro-Hamas. Civil liberty groups have strongly criticized Trump's promises to deport foreign students who attend pro-Palestine protests, since the speech of foreigners inside the U.S. is supposed to be protected under the First Amendment. If we open the door expelling foreign students who peacefully express ideas out of step with the current administration about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we should expect it to swing wider to encompass other viewpoints too. Sarah McLaughlin, senior scholar at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, said in an op-ed for NBC in January. I wonder if that's the same Sarah McLaughlin from the eyes of the angel. I don't know. I'm wondering if that's... Maybe it is. Sorry for that, guys. I know this is wild stuff. I have a feeling this is probably something that'll likely end up going through the courts and get thrown out. But even just the idea that they're doing it... Because I don't really like the idea of governments when they do this shit. Like we saw this with Biden with some of the vax requirements, I believe, if I recall correctly, where he put out these like executive... orders or whatever, and then they end up getting thrown out in the court. But the thing is, it's had a lot of its effect by that time. A lot of people, because there was like the threats that they were going to through OSHA or something. So a lot of people out there in the world were like, oh shit, they're getting ready to implement this through OSHA. I could lose my job, blah blah. And so they go get the poke, and then it's like, oh cool. Like a few weeks later, you find out, oh never mind, they got kicked out in the courts. But it's like, okay, but like you can. I know this idea that we're like, oh, we're just gonna do things, and then later it'll whatever, it'll fix itself later when it goes to the courts, is just not like how a government should really operate, in my opinion. I mean, it should be like, hey, if you're just blatantly doing things that are anti-constitutional, there should be some sort of, it should be hell to pay, honestly. Like, you shouldn't just be able to do that shit. Like, you should be, these are the things that people should be impeached for, like, honestly. Not dumb shit like, oh no, you didn't give enough money to Ukraine. So, all right. Yeah, that's all I got on the anti-war front. The AI thing, I thought you guys would get a kick out of that. Find that particularly interesting. I know I did. Yeah. Let's see, Boa says, beautiful singing voice straight from an angel. He's also saying, way off topic, but have you ever heard of Jay Stark and his mysterious death at the hands of the German government? No, I have, but I am intrigued. And if you tag me in something, I'd be open to covering it for sure. All right, here's a weird story I want to cover, just mostly because it's like, what the fuck? I saw this yesterday. I'm kind of curious, did any of you guys see this? Apparently there was a Starship explosion. It's capitalized. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's I think it's some sort of Elon thingy or something, but I guess we supposedly launched some shit. I saw this while I was driving yesterday. I was fucking like, what in the hell is this? Now watch this. This is weird. Look at this thing. That's what I saw. It literally looks like some sort of weird plasma cloud or something. And it was like the video doesn't do it justice, because it really was like, it was like bright. It was almost like there was a fog and there was a light emanating from it. It was very bizarre. It was I don't know. I was very like, what the fuck is this? I guess supposedly this is something that exploded. I mean, I'm not seeing it. I guess you can kind of see the center. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's fuel coming from it or something. I don't know. But it was weird because, like, the center, like, you know, when I was driving, it's like the center was, like, illuminated. By the way, let me know if you see this, because this would be really fucking ridiculous if if you guys can even see this, and I'm giving all this breakdown. But yeah, it was very bizarre. It was like almost like a plane in the sky. Like, you could see the light emanating, but then the light also went through all of these. I don't know, very bizarre, very bizarre. But supposedly something exploded, so I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, I had this happen like 6 months ago too. With see, look at that thing. Isn't that so weird looking? And that's supposed to be a starship or something. It's just weird. I mean, I guess so. Now it looks more like something like that. It's like you see the fire coming off it. Now it looks like some sort of actual explosion or something or other. Before it was weird. It was just like things lightening up in the sky. All right, that's enough of that. I just was like befuddled by this. I saw this yesterday, and they're like, "You're telling me this is an explosion?" I guess so. I guess this was an explosion. Bizarre. I know, and nothing to be said there. I was just like, "What the fuck?" This happened to me like 6 months ago too. Ironically, from another Elon product. I saw the Starlink thing once. If you guys have ever seen that Starlink thing, pro tip: if you see it for the first time, it's like, "What the fuck is that?" It's like literally like a string of lights that come along behind each other. Very weird the first time you see it. You're like, what the fuck am I seeing? And then you look it up and you're like, oh, it's that. Yep. So I don't know. This isn't really news or anything. I just wanted to share with you that I saw this yesterday and I was like, what the fuck? It is very. I mean, you look at these like look at that. That is weird. Like, that's not what you would expect an explosion in the sky to look like. Although I guess so. So all right, let's pop in with you guys. Hey there, losers. It says CSETP. You can all see them chemtrailing patterns there too, is what they're saying. Yeah, they kind of burn and morph like elements burning the air. I see them here at high elevation a lot. Yeah, it's a very odd rabbit hole. Oh, never mind. You're talking about the other guy. Okay. Yeah, weird shit. All right, I want to share this with you guys. This is PM Bondi. I feel like this tied into our previous story. I guess recently they're opening an investigation into anti-Semitism in California. So this seems to be... God, we're getting all this anti-Semitism stuff now, and I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it feels intentional, and it feels insulting. And it's like right when we're waiting for these supposed Epstein files, which I think the last I'd heard was supposedly we're supposed to get something today. I'm not holding my breath. We'll see. I mean, likely if there is, I guess we'll probably cover that tomorrow. But no, it just feels insulting that like, oh, we're gonna go into the Epstein files, and then just kidding, womp womp womp. Oh, here's all this anti-Semitism stuff. Just rampant, like really, really pushing on the idea of constitutionality and like, oh, anti-Semitism this, anti-Semitism that. So now she's looking into it over in the University of California. I just wanted to bring this up just because that's like, hey, they're doing that. Like that's what they're doing instead of focusing on this Epstein stuff. I mean, I guess you can do both at the same time. But it is like you'd think we should have got that. Honestly, I'm still like just astounded that we got a Friday date because this was what like last it was like last week that we're supposedly when we got the phase 1, I think, or whatever bullshit that was a nothing burger, and then what was it like 3+ days ago? They're like, oh, we have the truckloads of them, and you're like, you would think it would be like, okay, well then show us to us tomorrow or like ASAP. Why are you waiting almost a full week? Like, why? I mean, I get it. You got to get it prepared, but it's like you already looked fucking stupid as shit by not having this before. So you would think you'd be really pushing the timetable here and trying to, I don't know, have your people on it, going through all the different stuff, see what needs to be redacted, whatever. Even if you can't release it all, be like, oh, just here's this. You would think you would at least release in piecemeal a little bit here, and like, oh, well, here's a couple documents of this. While we're still preparing the rest. It's just a sign of good faith of like, hey, I see, I'm not bullshitting you. Nope, none of that. Just no fucks given. Instead, herder or you guys don't like Jews. You go to jail now. You leave the country. That's what our country is. So, and yeah, okay, cool. We're tagged. Let me see. Coffee, smoke, and the morning dump. Life is good. About to take the dogs down the water and let them enjoy this nice day. Hell yeah, dude. Anti-Semitism is fun for jokes, not when the government pushes it, though. Exactly. You get it. You get it. All right, well, let's carry on a little bit more about our buddy Ian Carroll and whether he's a Fed or not. This is just one little node I thought was particularly interesting. I wanted to watch it. I just found out today, well, actually yesterday when I bookmarked this, that Eric Weinstein, the Eric Weinstein that you may have seen on Joe Rogan and the like before, he's the managing director of Teal Capital. How I never knew that is beyond me. I've referenced before that I believe it's Eric, and he has his brother too. I forget his brother's name. But it was either him or his brother that wrote, I believe, a piece on like depopulation once to like the UN or NATO or something. So obviously like a little bit of a spooky fella. And now I come to find out he works for Teal Capital. You're like, oh shit. So yeah, Weinstein is let's just say very, very sus. So this is something. The purpose of this tweet, though, I guess, was to give Ian Carroll shit for it. I'm gonna go ahead and go ahead and throw it out there that I think this will probably be lacking. He'll probably just say some semi-nice things about somebody, and then you go, look at him, oh Weinstein, and you're like, okay. I mean, I don't know. Like the point being, is not everyone knows everything. He might not know. I literally just found out that Eric Weinstein is the managing director of Teal Capital. So, like, is it really that crazy that maybe Ian Carroll doesn't know things about Eric Weinstein? I don't think it's that crazy. He also could know things about Eric Weinstein and completely be in the know and be some sort of glowy, but I don't fucking know that. I mean, and none of you guys really know that either, so it's kind of a weird thing to jump to. But let's go ahead and play this video to see what exactly he said that was so bad. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and jump on. I think probably wasn't that bad, especially since it's 13 seconds long. Usually whenever it's like that short of a clip, you're always like, oh, this can't be that bad, especially since you're not giving me any additional context. But let's go and play this.
Eric Weinstein was highlighting this to me once. He was saying,
smart dude. I like him.
Very smart dude.
Yeah.
And he wasn't making any accusations at all, but he was just talking overall. He goes, I think.
All right, yeah, this is really fucking stupid. Yeah, he literally said, smart dude, I like him. That's it. Okay, well, all right. The Ian Carroll side of things not interesting to me. I just want to share with you guys this information I just found out that I don't know if that's a lot of you guys know this out in the conspiracy world. I don't know how this has slipped my mind. How I've known of Eric Weinstein, I've seen him on Joe Rogan, and never put two and two together. Never noticed this guy is like essentially the main money manager. It looks like for Peter Thiel. A little concerning. Here you can see here is Wikipedia. As of 2021, Weinstein is the managing director for Teal Capital, a venture capital firm founded by American financier Peter Thiel. So this is what this guy does, which is bizarre because he's like a mathematician and like I don't know. I was watching this video the other day. It was kind of like making fun of Weinstein and then like also making fun of Friedman and some of these people that surround themselves around that end up like kind of being this entourage of Rogan, and you just kind of like, what the fuck are these people? What do they do? Like what are you? Like what is an Eric Weinstein? Like he was supposed to be some sort of weird mathematician. He always goes on Rogan and talks in lofty terms about math that no one really fucking understands what the fuck he's talking about. You just kind of nod along so you don't feel retarded. Like okay, sure, yeah, you 7-dimensional space. Okay, cool, dude, whatever. Like that's what he is the math guy, but yet then now he's running the money, which I get, like, yeah, math, money, but I mean he deals with like weird theoretical high level math. I mean, I don't think you really need that to be able to balance a budget or, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's got to be too complicated. It's just a matter of like, who the fuck is this guy that he is running the fucking, like one of the richest people in the world, one of the spookiest people in the world, running their money essentially. Kind of makes you wonder, who is this guy? Yeah, I don't, it's just bizarre because it's like, and you're like, you see, what does he contribute? And then it's 2021 when this happened too. So he was already in the Rogan sphere before then. So it's like, what was he doing before this? I don't know. I need to look into his background. It's just bizarre to me. And then here's Adam again saying, yeah, maybe Iran is behind Epstein. The crux of the reason why I brought this up, by the way, is not really to anything to do with Ian Carroll, because I assumed from the jump that this was going to be kind of lacking. I more just wanted to dig into some of the Weinstein juiciness, because something, yeah. And I have seen weird things from before, and people focus on. I always thought it was odd the focus people put on Weinstein, but now understanding where he sits in the on the chessboard, you're like, oh shit, okay. So here's Adam Green. He says, this is what running for cover for the Epstein, Wexner, mega Mossad, Zionist, pedo, blackmail ring looks like. Weinstein is part of the intellectual dark web. My bad. I didn't even mean to say dork web. That was like with Rubin, Shapiro, Rogan, and Peterson. And this is a tweet from Weinstein. It says, where are we on state-sponsored pedophilia honeypots? Let's try the following. How can we be sure that China, Russia, or Iran wasn't behind Epstein if we can't ask the questions of Epstein's ties to intelligence? So either we know his tie or we're leaving a giant security hole. That's kind of funny. The idea being like, oh, we don't fucking know everything. So since there's this giant black hole in our logic here, or in our information here, and that and since the powers above us cover up things, we don't really know that it was Mossad or CIA. It could have been China, Russia, Iran. Okay, sure. So, yeah. By the way, Weinstein also comes up too frequently now. Now, I'm like putting all these dots together now that I'm noticing this. Weinstein's also a guy frequently brought up by people being like, oh, look at this guy kind of boosting this guy. And while I don't really normally like to jump on those, there is something to it. Those are nodes of information that if you add up enough of them, you can kind of be like, okay, that's something. You got to realize it is like dubious information, so don't rely too much on that. But it is like in the world of like pattern recognition, that is a thing. And I have seen him come up quite frequently with certain things like that, where he's, kind of, especially early on, kind of boosting certain people, especially a lot of the people that we might think glow a little. So it seems to be certain ilks seems to push up. Anyways, I'm rambling again, but it's this is something. Here's Weinstein saying he believes Jews are chosen and responsible to shepherd the human race. So let's go ahead and play this. 29 seconds long. I don't know how legit this is.
When you say, like, somebody, not you, but somebody says, well, the Jews consider themselves the chosen people. Do you know why we're chosen? We view ourselves as chosen, not because we're the best, because we're responsible. We believe that we are responsible for this planet. And we Jews, Edward Teller and Stanislav Ulam, both Jews, unleashed the power of the sun on the planet, which is dooming us to a very bad end. And I believe that we are chosen in the sense that it is our responsibility, not our privilege, not our this, not our that, not that we're on top, but it's our responsibility to shepherd the birth of the human race.
Yeah, that is pretty creepy. I'll go ahead and say that's an odd thing to say there, Eric. Very odd thing to say. Especially since this guy, man, you look at his connections, and I don't know, the big old Stein at the end of his name is hard to miss. Man, that's we're gonna have to go on some dives on this guy here soon. All right, let's check in the chat, see what you guys have to say. The alternative is academia. Maybe they're related to Harvey. He's investing in doing risk requires math. Yes, but it's like, I don't even know how to describe the type of math he does. The type of math he does is not like, it's unnecessary. Like you don't need that. Like he's like a top level theoretical whatever the fuck. Like I don't know. Weinstein is a freak, but said something on JRE with conviction that convinced me we have to leave this planet to ensure our species survival, and soon. That's from CSESTP. I don't believe that, to be honest, personally. So maybe that's why Brett Weinstein and Heather Hyman don't allow comments on their live streams. Perhaps. I don't know. Good morning, Screwed Up Texas. Good morning. Just seeing if there's anything else. Shin Bet, Israel's FBI is exposing Bibi for funding Hamas and allowing October 7th to happen. I was listening to something the other day, too, where, God, what was it? I wish I could remember the specific thing, but there was something where Netanyahu, I guess, kind of made some sort of allusions to Ehud Barak, which we've talked about on this show. This was the prime minister that met with Epstein a shitload. Like he was like super clicked up with him. Funny enough, the story, I forget who said it, but the story of how Epstein met Ehud Barak as he was introduced by another Israeli prime minister before him. So either way, just kind of demonstrates how clicked in he is into this group. But there was something I think Netanyahu sounds like he threw him under the bus. Said something about Ehud, which I think they kind of were a little bit of political enemies, if I recall correctly. So it kind of makes sense. But it also would clearly be a way for them to. I guess he made some sort of statements about like the deep state or something too, and how like, oh look, this is the deep state. Netanyahu. Obviously, that's super rich coming from him. But it almost looks like I would keep an eye on too, as much as we're leaning into like, oh, we're never going to get any truth about the Israel connection. I'd be careful with that because I feel like there's a good chance they could pull a whole switcheroo and be like, you're getting so much of it, but yet while misdirecting from the important stuff, like the Mossad connections. So like they could lean hard into the Ehud Barak and really throw him under the bus and just throw him to the wolves. But yet make it sound like it's it was more of just like a CIA thing, or not even CIA, but some other type of thing. It's just weird that you see Netanyahu out there throwing his name out. So it makes you wonder: is this part of some sort of larger plan? Are they going to kind of subvert our expectations in a certain sense while still not really giving us anything? Because it would be kind of like, I think people would be almost like whiplash if they started going hard after Ehud Barak. You'd be like, whoa, we're going after a former Israeli prime minister. But if then they're able to play that precarious game where they're somehow able to pursue that, while narratively speaking, shielding any sort of looking into Mossad or, some of the other intel connections, I mean, that would be a hard game for them to play, but that would be a whiplash for those out there that are like, oh, nothing ever happens, because you're like, oh my God, something's happening. It would be, I don't know, I could see it being almost a smart play. More in the sense because it would take us by storm, and that you're like, whoa, I was not anticipating that. Because you're not really anticipating them leaning hard into the angle that you're looking into, but they'd be leaning in a sense so hard into it that they don't really lean it. They actually lean into something else entirely, so they're not really going after Mossad anymore. So let me see. Plot twist: they blame it on Epstein. You can't say anything about it because of anti-Semitism. Yeah, right. They put in all these anti-Semitism laws, and they go, guess what? We would tell you the truth, but now it's illegal. We can't. So, Fire Pixie says, just tuned in. I'm on my break at work. I'm going to jail because I don't like aggressively Jewish people. Oh no. Yeah. So let me see people talking about the Samson option. I hope folks realize once too many people know. Samson option. Yep. For those who aren't aware, that is their nuclear option. Essentially, whenever things go tits up, they'll just bomb fucking everyone. So, because the idea being, for those who know your biblical lore, Samson was granted, granted strength from God through his hair. Whenever it got caught, he lost it. And then I think in his, he got some hoe. I want to say it was like Delilah or somebody, I think, to let him cut his hair. He got essentially became a captive of his, I don't know, it was the Philistines or some bad group in the Bible. And he was like essentially chained up, and then he asked God for strength one more time, and then he like fucking just pulled some cool shit. Like, remember like the end sequence of Hunchback of Notre Dame where he like fucking pulls the chains and he starts like chucking shit at the people. It's like this cool little battle scene. That's what Samson does in the Bible. And then that's kind of a good metaphor for what Israel's talking about, like literally taking down the entire house, because like Samson basically killed himself and a bunch of other people in his like last bout of strength, and that's what Israel talks about. Yeah. All right, let me see. Is it six-fingered math? Yeah, right. That's why Weinstein's so good at math. It's that extra finger that helps out a lot. I would love to hear Jose's drunk history lessons. I don't even really drink anymore. So, all right, let's get into the next thing. This is from Doctori. I figured we kind of did a little bit of a watching other content and commenting on it the other day. I figured we'd do it again. Here we have this is from Doctori saying in the body of this tweet, there's a timestamp, and Tucker asks about SBF's effective altruism cult. I haven't listened yet. So here's Tucker. We're going to go to, you can see the timestamp here. 24482 confronts SBF about its effective altruism cult. So apparently Tucker recently interviewed SBF, and that's what we're watching now. I mean, if we're to believe these timetape, we got like a 6-ish minutes or so. Let's see what he has to say about effective altruism. I think this will give you guys a little bit more of a look into kind of what I've been talking about with like the Zizian mentality and the like. Bear in mind, the Zizian stuff is, an offshoot, I believe, of effective altruism. So we'll get some insights from some of this shit, and also just kind of the philosophy that is kind of pervading within Silicon Valley, because he isn't the only one. Like, effective altruism is essentially a break off of a rationality community, is what they call it. So, I mean, this is a thing that's infiltrating through Silicon Valley. This is the way these fucking weirdos are thinking. So, and it's coming up more and more often in other stuff. Like literally a trans murder cult. So I think it's worthwhile. So let's go ahead and watch this.
So you were famously identified with a worldview and ideology, maybe even a religion, called effective altruism. And the idea was that, as I understand it, that you do the greatest good for the greatest number. You make money in order to help the maximum number of people. And some have pointed out the irony that in the collapse of your company, like 1 million people lost their money. So there were a lot of individuals hurt in an effort that you described as like the greatest good for the greatest number. And I wonder if all of this has made you rethink the precepts of effective altruism.
It hasn't made me rethink the precepts, obviously. I feel terrible about what happened. It's not at all what I intended.
Right.
And what everyone's intentions are.
I just realized I'm retarded. Did you say everything went mute? You guys said everything went mute. You guys can hear the video, right? I'm retarded. I muted myself. But yeah, it didn't say anything too important. Oh. Sorry, guys. So make sure you let me know it wasn't the video, right? It was just me that muted. I accidentally had the mute button on and was talking. That was just me being retarded. All right, let's God, man, what did I even say? Oh, all I said was that I just was letting you guys know that I'd actually watched a little bit of this before the show, and then I stopped myself because I couldn't stop laughing because of his ridiculous voice. That's all I said. And and I was like, hey, I gotta save this reaction for the people. So I don't know, maybe I'll be more mature this time around, but it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All right, let's keep going.
If you screw up, then the results might be different. People have their money back at the end, but it is 2 excruciating years waiting for it. They got it back dollarized rather than in kind. And certainly all of the good that I've been hoping to do for the world ended up dissipating, or at least most of it did, when the company collapsed.
I guess what I'm saying is, I think it's hard for most people to understand the idea that it's more virtuous or valuable to help people they've never met than it is to help the people right in front of them. In other words, like, it's way more virtuous to help your wife, girlfriend, mother, daughter, brother, college roommate than it is to help like a village in a country you've never visited. I think that's how most people feel intuitively. But you disagree.
I disagree, although there's a caveat to it, which is that, a classic mistake which people make, and I may have made it at some points, is with people who you don't know, who are distant from you, thinking you know what they need when you don't. Being paternalistic, kind of condescending. And, there's so many foreign aid type projects that have gone awry, ended up being complete wastes of money because no one knew the people they're giving to. No one knew what their lives were like. And they're just guessing at what those people mean. It's just wrong. And
this is kind of interesting to look at this through like the lens of like, if you were to buy, obviously I still think it's ridiculous, but he's saying like, he's, for those who aren't aware, effective altruism, it really is just kind of utilitarianism to its extreme. And you can get into ridiculous levels, especially when you're talking about things like the Zizians and stuff. They get into very weird. This is where they get into the idea of like, oh, like this is why it's okay to kill Nazis or whatever, because it's like, oh, well, because theoretically that this ideology could spread and this will negatively impact thousands of people in the future, and but if I just kill him now, then like it's that kind of logic. But it's kind of interesting to see it from his perspective. Like he's laying out like, hey, using foreign aid as example, and it's like, oh, well, theoretically, like, yeah, these go bad, but that's just because we don't know these people. If you know someone, you're going to be more intuitive into their needs. as opposed to just random people. You're not really in a place to be altruistic to those people per se if you don't know them better. So there is something to the idea of people you know better. But anyways, it is I would still say you're better off to I don't know. I'm much more of an egoist in the idea of really it should be everything starting from you and working out is in my opinion. That's kind of what makes the most sense. I mean, in a certain sense, like I value myself the most. In reality, it's kind of like my family, but it's like, it's more because they're an extension of me. I see them kind of as, literally no different than me. But aside from that, it's like, there's descending orders of value as you get further away from the core, which is like me and my inner family. I care less and less and less. So yeah, I don't know. It's almost like, I personally think it's like almost an evil perspective, really. This like altruism thing, which is kind of the core of what Ayn Rand was driving at so often with like the concept of her altruism. It was almost like an evil force. And I think there's something to that, but let's keep playing it.
They show up with like a bunch of water pumps to a village that has plenty of water and no food. And like, all these people shipped in from Harvard to go hand out these water pumps no one wants. And, there's sort of like example after example of this going awry. Whereas obviously, like when you're dealing with people you have much better sense of how to help them. And that's real. Like that effect is absolutely real. And, even if I think the life matters as much in one place as another, that doesn't mean that you know as well how to help one as you do the other.
Well, see, I think you're sort of making a counter case. You're arguing against your own position. I mean, isn't it? I mean, I guess the problem I have with effective altruism is just too easy. I mean, it's like, it's easy to cure polio. It's really hard to make the same woman happy for 30 years. And so maybe it's better to do the hard thing. Well,
I think what I'd say is,
I mean, really all this is like super duper autism to like everything. And this is the issue here too, is it's like this effective altruism thing is just the idea of that like, oh, we're just trying to do the best thing. It literally is just like autists trying to figure out how to deal with life and overthinking everything, really. That's what it comes down to. And being so caught up in this utilitarian idea because they're very much numbers oriented. And, theoretically, in a certain sense, you're like, yes, every life has the same exact value, which honestly, I don't think every life has the same value. I'm sorry. But if you're looking from their perspective, what's the word I'm looking for? Not utilitarian, this equitable, I guess, or what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. The idea of everyone being the same, equality, I guess, or whatever. I don't think everyone has the same value. I just simply don't. And I mean, everyone has different value to different people. I don't know. I lost my point. I had a good point, then I lost it. But either way, this is interesting looking and seeing a little bit of a snapshot into this. But you guys are kind of seeing what I'm saying, whereas just like, it's like autism overthinking everything. And I think part of the issue is that they are starting from a flawed premise and, starting from the idea that like literally everyone is equally the same value. How can I not think of the fucking word for that? It's commonly used in like, whatever. I'll think of it later. It's really bugging me. I can't think of the word. Let's go and play.
Look, you look at, malaria is a good example here, right? No one dies of...
It's like Rothbard literally wrote a book about it. It's like I don't know if it was a book. Maybe it was like a title. Fuck, what is it called? Like it's like the lie of progressivism. It's the not equity, not damn it. One of you guys will think of it. All right, let's keep playing.
Malaria anymore in the United States. I mean, basically no one does. But globally, it's what, like 1 million people a year or something die of it.
It's not equity. Equity is not the word I'm thinking of. But I'll come back to it. It's like all right.
And that's horrible that it happens. Like this is just a disease people shouldn't be dying from anymore. We know how to basically eradicate it, and we should absolutely be doing that as a world. But because it's sort of like easy in some sense, that shouldn't stop us from being able to help people, at home. You look at like the scale of resources that would be required to many of these, interventions in the poorest part of the world, and it's not that big. It would not take a big bite out of our domestic help if it were done efficiently. But the efficient part is a big piece of this. You can throw as many useless water pumps at villages without food as you want without curing anyone.
No, that's demonstrably true. And 60 years of aid to Africa has shown that as life expectancy has declined. But I guess as a moral matter, how can you justify worrying about malaria when your cousin is addicted to Xanax? Shouldn't you fix that first?
If I could, but at the end of the day, we have responsibilities to each of us. And, if I know my cousin well and I know how to solve his problem because I'm his cousin, then absolutely, I have a responsibility to do that. But if I've tried and I'm flailing at that, I can't figure out how to make progress, but I can figure out how to save lives internationally, or if someone can, then I don't think it takes away from the good that they can do internationally that they couldn't figure out how to solve their cousin's problem.
Right. So do what you can. I don't think that's a crazy point. Last question on this topic.
Yep.
Can you think of a big recent international aid project that was an unequivocal success?
So, sort of, but I'm not going to name it's not going to be a government aid project, to be clear. They're private projects that have been.
Right.
I actually think malaria is a good example where a substantial fraction of the world's malaria has been cut down already by mostly private contributions from people to sub-Saharan Africa.
All right, I'm bored of this already. Yeah, this is boring, but it is egalitarianism. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, MK Ultraviolence. Egalitarian. There we go. Yes, and this is starting from the egalitarian starting point is the issue, and from there, then you're kind of so you're starting from this idea everyone has the same value, and so this is the flaw. The premise is the flaw. And so from there, then you go way too far. You get to weird conclusions when it's well, not everyone's worth the same. I'm sorry, my wife has far more value to me than some starving Nigerian. It just it means nothing compared to me. So, yeah. Also, everyone's reminding me that he's showing a cell with Diddy these days, for those who don't recall that. Rites of passage were a turning point of taking from the tribe to contributing to the tribe. Contributing to those around you is a natural thing. Contributing to the tribe over there isn't. Yes, 100%. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. Let's get into what else we got. Here's Sammy Boy shared something recently on Karen Bass. I figured we'd talk about her a little bit. There's an article in here, effort underway to recall L.A. Mayor Bass over handling a Palisades fire. So let's go ahead and read an article on that. Here we go. Make sure this is up. You guys are seeing this, right? Make sure you guys let me know that. So, all right. Second. Sorry. Here we go. X out of that. Man, I can't believe I couldn't think of egalitarianism earlier. Man, it was bugging the shit out of me. Appreciate it, guys. All right, here we go. Effort underway to recall L.A. Mayor Bass over handling a Palisades fire. A movement is underway to recall L.A. Mayor Karen Bass over her handling of January's deadly and destructive Palisades fire. The LA Times reported Monday that paperwork had been filed with the LA Ethics Commission after it was initially filed with the state of California last week. The filing allows opponents of Mayor Bass to raise money so they can put a recall on the ballot. The city's clerk's office did not immediately respond when asked if a recall petition had been filed or if a signature gathering effort had been initiated, the Time reported. So, we don't really know if they even are gathering signatures, if they're doing anything, but they've applied for it. Critics blasted Bass for not being in the city or country when the Palisade fires erupted on January 7th. The massive blaze burned out of control for several days, scorching roughly 24,000 acres and destroying nearly 7,000 homes, businesses, and other structures. The wildfire also claimed the lives of 12 people. Ooh, Nephilim Murder Crew raided the stream. What is up, people? Appreciate that. The mayor previously said she had not been told about the severity of the fire weather conditions before she left for a diplomatic mission to Ghana, which the idea that the LA mayor is going on diplomatic missions to Ghana, you have lost the plot. that kind of plays off what we were just talking about with effective altruism. What in the fuck are you doing in Ghana? It's one thing if you're going there to vacation or doing some sort of philanthropy on your own time or something, but it's if this is connected to your job, this should have absolutely nothing to your job. The idea that taxpayers are in any way on the hook for your diplomatic mission to Ghana as the mayor of a city in the United States, that's beyond me. She cited that as one of the reasons for firing LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. Post citing the National Weather Service was made on the mayor's X account a day before the Palisades fire, warning the public about dangerous weather conditions. There is an expected destructive and potentially life-threatening windstorm starting Tuesday morning through Wednesday afternoon, the post in the mayor's X feed stated on January 6th. Crowley met with L.A. City, its county officials, Tuesday to appeal her dismissal. Yeah, that was like the super dyke-looking broad, right? I find it odd fitting her name is Crowley. To be successful, she would need 2/3 approval from the council, which would be 10 of the 15 council members. At least one city council member, Monica Rodriguez, has voiced support for Crowley since her firing. I am outraged by scapegoating revealed by the mayor's actions. I plan to use my authority as a council member to set the record straight and encourage Chief Crowley to appeal the mayor's baseless termination to the city council. So it looks like she fired the fire chief, and that looked like that was supposed to be like, oh, that'll cover it. Looks like there's some political actors out there who go, hey, that was just you covering up your own bullshit. Opponents would need to collect approximately 330,000 signatures in the next 4 months to trigger a recall, the Times reported. Critics also pointed out that Bass promised years ago, while campaigning to become mayor, that she would not leave the country if elected. Bizarre thing to promise, but yeah, it looks like that's bullshit. Not only would I, of course, live here, but I also would not travel internationally. The only places I would go would be D.C., Sacramento, San Francisco, and New York in relation to L.A., Bass told the New York Times in October 2021. So she had already said she wasn't going to leave. Bass was also in Paris for the closing ceremony of the Olympics when Governor Gavin Newsom showed up at an LA underpass to make the point that local governments needed to do more to clear homeless encampments. So she was also went to Paris. So she's gone to Paris and Ghana at the very least during this period of time, where she said she wasn't going to go anywhere and was going to really focus on her city. Any recall effort will face a steep climb in LA. Several of the operatives pursuing the Bass recall campaign appear to be Republicans, a fact that could limit its appeal in a heavily Democratic city, the LA Times reported. The recall filing is nothing more than another extreme right-wing political stunt designed to divide LA when we need to move forward, Bass's political strategist Douglas Herman said in a statement cited by the LA Times. Let's pop into the chat, see what you guys have to say. Her name is Crowley. Yeah. Dude has to pop his fat face into everything somehow. Bubba was saying the amount of taxpayer fraud is insane. Stuff like that breeds Marvin Highmayer type of behavior. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, Crowley always does be showing up, doesn't he, Helper Crow? There's a global order of mayors. It's wild. Yeah, it does seem like Karen Bass was toward the tippy top, huh? All right, well, I wanted to dig into her past a little bit today, too. I found this. I mean, if any of you guys find more stuff, feel free to tag me. But this is a post. There's a little bit of a video, so I figured we'd watch this together. This is April Spark. She says, L.A. Mayor Karen Bass trained in terror tactics and bomb making in the 1980s when she was an organizer for the Marxist-Leninist group called Venceremos Brigade. So let's watch this, see how legit this is.
Number 7.
All right, number 7.
1983. Remember this date, but first, let me introduce you to Karen Bass. Back in the 1970s, community activist Karen Bass went on at least 15 trips to Cuba, many with a group known as the Venceremos Brigade, a Marxist group started by the Castro regime to subvert American interests, weaken democracies, and spread communism around the world. Founded in 1969, the Venceremos Brigade organized trips to Cuba every year for half a century. They attracted the most radicalized and delusional segments of the American left, including overtly Maoist and pro-Soviet communist groups.
I bet you was a fucking fed up, but let's keep going.
In fact, a Los Angeles police investigator who infiltrated the group testified to Congress saying that to be a member of the brigade, you had to be confirmed as a Marxist-Leninist, as a brigadista, and then moving up the ranks to organizer for the Venceremos Brigade. Karen Bass visited Cuba every 6 months. Their mission? To radicalize.
Every 6 months? What was she going to some from the fucking kill squad camps there? That was a stupid joke. All right. I forget. The Tinfoil Hat episode hasn't dropped yet. Which, by the way, that went hard. We did go into kill squads, Cuban kill squads in there at some point. So I don't know. This feels very glowy. This feels the idea that there's some group that's going to Cuba every 6 months during peak, like, don't go to Cuba time Feels glowy, but let's keep going.
Young, impressionable American leftists in terrorist tactics and guerrilla warfare. Members of the Venceremos Brigade were even taught how to make bombs.
Jesus Christ.
Karen Bass admits, on her many pilgrimages to Cuba, she went to see Fidel Castro speak several times, even calling him charismatic. And upon his death, praised him, saying, "The passing of Commandant en Jefe is a great loss to the people of Cuba, even though the people of Cuba see him as a dictator who impoverished their island." Another group, the M19, took its belief in revolutionary anti-imperialism to extremes, violent extremes. The M19 was the first and only women-created and women-led domestic terrorist group.
Wait, what is this? This seems like some SLA shit right here.
Revolutionary anti-imperialism to who impoverished their island. Another group, the M19, took its belief in revolutionary anti-imperialism to extremes, violent extremes. The M19 was the first and only women-created and women.
Yeah, I don't believe it. It's gotta be feds. There's no way there's a women fucking paramilitary group. You're out of your fucking mind.
Led domestic terrorist group. Since their founding in 1978, M19's tactics escalated from robbing armored trucks and abetting prison breaks to building their own explosives.
This is supposed to be a bunch of broads? Bullshit.
And carrying out terrorist bombings. From 1983 to 1984, M19 bombed an FBI office, the Israel Aircraft Industries building, the South African consulate in New York, DC's Fort McNair, and Navy Yard, which they bombed twice. But that wasn't enough for them. On the night of November 7, 1983, the M19 called the U.S. Capitol
Man, I don't know anything about these, but these glow so fucking hard, dude. This is... Man, I need to look into this M19 group. Let's keep going.
Board and warned them to evacuate the building. Minutes later, the M19 bombed the north wing of the U.S. Capitol. November 7, 2023 marks 40 years since the M19's bombing of the U.S. Capitol. Members of the M19, like Susan Rosenberg, traveled to Cuba with and were radicalized by the Venceremos Brigade. The South Los Angeles Venceremos Brigade was led by Karen Bass, who is now mayor of Los Angeles.
Huh, that's interesting. Man, I wish Austin was with us today. I think he'd be feeling everything I'm... I found that video, I didn't say much or much commentary, but man, I just... Pattern recognition off the charts. I need to look into some of those groups. That's wild. All right, let's look at this little infographic they put in here. This is in 1983, the Capitol bombed. She was the ringleader. Was it some shitty fucking Facebook post? You know what else is interesting? This bombing was carried out by a left-wing group called the M19. M19 was radicalized by the South LA Venceremos Brigade. So the idea, I guess, this supposed M19 group supposedly was radicalized by the group that Karen Bass was leading. It's Karen Bass was not the one carrying out these. So the South Los Angeles Venceremos Brigade was founded by Communist Democrat LA Mayor Karen Bass. So this reminds me kind of a little bit, makes me think of the whole Dutroux thing, where you had I guess it's more on the Gladio side of things, really, but when you had the Nouveau Journal or whatever, I guess not a perfect example, but I believe that was like a publication, and from there that inspired the Westland New Post. So it sounds like the Venceremos are attributed with inspiring or helping in some way the M19. So then that might have been, I don't know, maybe the Venceremos was like a feeder group for the M19. The M19 was like a split off that was more extreme, kind of like the Westland New Post kind of was. So I mean, it would make sense. You have a character like her running it, and now she's a political leader, so it kind of all makes sense. And then, I don't know, this does glow like crazy, though. Man, I'm gonna have to check that out later. But speaking of glowing, I have one last story for you. And I don't have much to say about this. It's just wild. A Doge effort to sell off federal properties inadvertently exposes CIA black site in Northern Virginia. This is according to Bloomberg TV. I don't have an article or anything about that. I just thought that was particularly interesting. Especially, here's a little tidbit, a little factoid I dropped on Tinfoil Hat yesterday, or not yesterday, but the day before, that you guys will see in a little bit. We talked about, and if you're a patron, you've already heard this little piece of information. On one of my False Memory Syndrome episodes, I was talking to Jacob about the Jonestown cult and the land that they were on in Guyana apparently that land right before that was owned by the federal government and was being used for Operation Shalom. And this was literally right before, up to 2 years prior, was being used for Operation Shalom, which was a operation where they took black Green Beret military members and trained them. What they trained them for, we don't know. But this was this literally was right before the Guyana, Jonestown cult showed up, who bought that from the federal government and took over that place. And there were a bunch of facilities that were there that the Guyanese, the cult was using that were there from the time beforehand. So point being is on the note of black sites, and one more thing on the Operation Shalom side of things, that 2 years prior, that land they were training at, Colton Westbrook was there. And it kind of which kind of ties into what we were just was referring to with like SLA implications and stuff. Colton Westbrook was the Glowie, who I believe he was from Operation Phoenix, ends up in Operation Shalom later, and then he later becomes, I forget what college it was, but he was the one who essentially was what put together the Symbionese Liberation Army, who were the individuals ended up kidnapping Patty Hearst in that extremely prolific case, and essentially MK Ultra'd the fuck out of her. So this guy was, there's some weird shit going on there. And then what's going on in these black sites? I don't know. Something weird was going on. It makes me think that maybe the things that the cult members were subjected to may have been similar to something, may have been possibly similar to what the military members may have been subjected under, as opposed to the difference being one is like more of an imprisoned group and one's more of military training, so slightly different flavor to it. But it makes you wonder, what the fuck, what's going on here? But all right, let's roll through the chat and then we're gonna get the fuck out of here. According to the movie The Farm, isn't the Northern Virginia one The Farm? I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't look into it anymore. I just thought it was kind of funny that, like, hey, they're accidentally exposing black sites out there. And it's like, also the idea that, I guess I didn't point it out, but the idea that we have that there are CIA black sites stateside is not good. It's like literally one of the main things about the CIA is that God, what the fuck was I even what was I fucking just talking? I just totally completely blanked on what was I saying. What was I even just saying? Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, there's the black sites. Just they're not supposed to be domestic. They're not supposed to be doing domestic shit. That's not the CIA is not supposed to be domestic, which is kind of a big thing with the Colton Westbrook thing. Also with the Manson stuff. Both of these are domestic things. They're parts of Operation Chaos, which was the CIA conducting domestic operations. So not supposed to be doing that either. But the idea is that look at all the domestic shit CIA does. They don't give a fuck. They do what they want. But yeah, let's keep going through the chat. See, Firepig saying it's hardly kidnapping when she was visiting DeFreeze in jail 6 months before anything happened to her. Yes. See, you get it. Firepixies. That's what's up. Aggressively agreeing. Imagine an autistic Doge kid walking to a building with a bunch of foreigners from the Middle East being tortured and be like, this seems pretty wasteful. How much are you guys spending here? Let me see. Austin convinced me that Jonestown was part of MK Ultra, which, by the way, for those who aren't aware, me and Austin did a Jonestown series, so you can go check that on my playlist. Go check that out. All right, let's. Whatever happened to Plain Mommy? I don't know. I have no idea what happened to her. See. To be fair, they have to make room for the Olympics. They're coming. They had to clear out a pretty big space of land. Yeah, I mean, talking about the LA fires. All right, guys, I think we're good, guys. I think I think we hit it all today. We should be back tomorrow. I may or may not be. I think my kiddo wanted me to bring him somewhere in the morning, so might just be Austin running it tomorrow. But either way, I mean, I'll be back in soon. I'll come back soon. If not tomorrow, it'll be probably Sunday. I'm pretty good. I'm here most days. So, but I know you guys like your time with Austin too. I mean, you guys go over to Dad's house sometimes, and he gives you guys candy and stuff, and he makes you feel good, And hey, it is what it is. But maybe one of these days he'll come. He'll join me. But with that, guys, keep an eye out for that tinfoil hat episode. I appreciate you guys joining me today. It's always fun hanging out with you guys. It's great seeing more and more of you joining every day. I do notice the regular group is growing, and it's going to grow more because the tinfoil hat episode is going to drop here soon, and me and Austin are going to be fucking killing it this year. And that's all thanks to you guys. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Make sure to if you want to support the show, if you don't want to chip in a buck, I totally get it. A lot of us are in tough times, so if you're one of those people, I would actually prefer you not to give me money if you're in tough times. I would prefer you to do other things. I want my audience to be successful in life. Because if you guys are successful, then you can turn around and give me some of that. You can break me off a chunk of that change, but you got to get successful first before you do that. But if you can't chip in a buck, there's plenty of ways you can help the show without giving any money. You can like, you can share, you can subscribe, you can comment, you can leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Obviously, if you do want to chip in a buck, but you actually want something back for it, you could get the razor at the beginning. That's my sponsor. That keeps him coming if y'all keep buying from him. But if you do want to chip in some money, cash is king. That is the best way you can support the show. It really is. But once again, I don't want your money if things are tight. But if you can afford it, chip in a buck. Patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2. That gets you early access to the episodes. And I'm increasing the amount of episodes behind the paywall from now on. I think I'm going to shoot for like 4 or something behind all times and doing 2 a week. So I think currently I have 2 behind the paywall, about to be 3 on Sunday, be 4 here soon. I think it's once I get the 4 behind the paywall, I'm going to start releasing 2 publicly a week too. So the public will get more as well. I'm increasing the amount I'm recording, and you get more behind the paywall. Also, you can get ad-free RSS feed at Patreon. You also can get access to the video call function for me and Austin's weekly live call-in show on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. That's where you can get the link, and you can hop in the second half of the show and shoot the shit with us, be a talking head there. But the highest level is my sponsors. I read them off every episode. I have my co-host on Terra Gang, at Terra Gang Toad, also have at Abrogate D's, at ZOVERACK, at _InvitZeal. Then I have Tim Tuttle, at Jolly on Klebold, then Will Bell's Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Eye Wine, then a big fan of the show, Torn May, then at INWARD Lover. And with that, we are out of here. Love you all. Deuces. Kimberly saying have a good day. Everyone saying bye-bye. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. Bye, bye, bye. Bye. Fire Pixie's Fang. I found a copy of Al Gore's Rhythm on the dark web. Gay, says Cooper Demo. All right, everyone's out of here. See you, Lance. We're out. Deuces. Bye-bye.